John Cross goes through his VHS collection for quite some time. Part 2. John Cross goes through his VHS collection for quite some time. Part 3. So the next few tapes I'm going to talk through are some of my PM Entertainment collection. I absolutely adore PM Entertainment. Obviously, I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention The Killer's Edge with Wings Hauser, Robert Z'Dar, and Karen Black. This one is a total romp. So much fun, so ridiculous, the most over-the-top acting you've ever seen in your entire life, in the best way, not in a ironic way, but in a way where you're like, yes, that line needed to be slammed against the back wall and slapped about a bit. And Wings Hauser and Robert Z'Dar, by God, did you nail that line to the back wall and smack it around a bit. And I salute you for it. Yes, indeed. The Killer's Edge, a great PM Entertainment classic, especially as it's Wings Hauser, which, by the way, all of Wings Hauser's characters could have just been called Wings Hauser and it would still have made sense. Because it literally says, Wings Hauser is Jack Saxon. Which it could equally be Jack Saxon is Wings Hauser. It would equally be nonsense. It's like you can say Channing Tatum's name any way you like and people still know who you're talking about. If I said Tanning Tatum or Tatum Channing, everyone know exactly what I was talking about. Well, that's what that's like. That's Wings Hauser is Jack Saxon. I'm sure he is. Killer's Edge. It's great. It's fantastic. Look it up. Now, this is rare. I don't think it's very good, but it's rare. Mayhem, which is a precursor to PM Entertainment films. So before they were PM Entertainment, they were this City Lights thing. And this was the first movie they made, Mayhem. And then this was the first movie, LA Heat, that they made as PM Entertainment. So these two are pretty... This one's very sought after. I don't know how rare it is, but it's sought after. This one's pretty rare. Pretty rare. And I'm very happy to have it. This one was one that I'd been looking at PM Entertainment movies for ages and ages and ages. And I never even had come across this. I mean, people might call me silly, but I'd never heard of Alien Intruder before with Billy D. Williams and Maxwell Caulfield and Tracy Scoggins. I mean, who doesn't want to be watching that right now? I might stop doing this video and go watch this right now. But yes, Alien Intruder, managed to get that on VHS, which I'm very happy about. I didn't even know that was in all my PM Entertainment watching. I didn't even know that was the thing. Some of the ones that came out towards the end, so things like Road Ends, which I think was called something else as well when it came out, and Catherine's Grove. These are some of sort of PM Entertainment are winding down. They would still have great films in them, like The Underground, which is, I mean, just look at that. If you can put a still from your film on the front cover and that's the still, and then on the back it's like starring Jeff Fahey, I'm like, sign me up. There's exploding cars while two people run away and it stars Jeff Fahey. Come on now. I mean, come on now. What has happened to the world? They just don't make movies like this anymore. This one's a pretty rare PM Entertainment as well, The Stray. So I've got some of the weirder, rarer end of the PM Entertainment road. This one's rare. So once P&M were no longer part of PM Entertainment actually eked on as a couple of other companies. And one of the movies they made was Camouflage, starring Leslie Nielsen, which if you look it up online, gets very bad reviews. But I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. If you can, check out Camouflage, starring Leslie Nielsen. Technically still one of PM Entertainment's films. It's on their Wikipedia page. So the last things I'm going to talk through is this shelf here. What I tend to put on these shelves here are movies that either mean a lot to me, or I really like the front cover, or they are a little bit special, a little bit weird, or a little bit rare, or certain part of my life, certain memory, whatever. These are like the special ones. So Splits. First one up is Splits. Well, there's two reasons I love Splits. First of all, although Splits is often lumped in with the sex romp comedies Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's. And it certainly has those elements. Like it has, you know, a topless football game and various other silly things like that. But its main storyline is about a empowered girl band headed up by Robin Johnson, who was also in Times Square and should have been in like 101. She only ever did 3 movies. Did Splits, Times Square, and I can't remember what the third one is. But she's great. She's absolutely great. If Times Square and Splits are the only things that we ever see of Robin Johnson, she left the world 2 incredible performances. I fucking love her in both those films. And she's the head of the band in Splits. And it's really just about like this band trying to get successful. And along the way, there's some like incredible slapstick and some ridiculous nudity. But basically, it's sort of this mid-80s empowered girl band trying to make it big, and I fucking love it. The other reasons I love Splits is the sideways box art. You don't often see sideways box art, and it's glorious sideways box art, because you'd think from the movie it's about naughty cheerleaders. It's not at all. And the other thing is that it reminds me every time I see it of my good dear friend Mo, because he was the one who first introduced it to me years ago when I first came to Connecticut to visit him. And we watched it, and it became like one of my favorites right away. And then a couple of years after that, or a year after that or something, Mo went on Amazon to look up Splits on VHS, because it's only ever been released on VHS. And it had like a few reviews. I think it had like 2 reviews. And one of the reviews was just a 3-star review. And Mo did a whole video rebutting the 3-star review.
The other reviewer is insane. Recorded a short review for Splits because I couldn't sit back and let that other review be the only one up here. It's wrong, and I needed to rant about it. 17 people found this helpful.
All right. The person up there who wrote the other review is bonkers. Why you would give this movie a 3 stars is beyond me. This is absolutely an amazing 80s teen sex romp. It has everything you're looking for. Pranks and hijinks and comedy and, of course, nudity and college.
And it's one of my favorite things in the entire world that anyone has ever done. And anyone who's given them like less than 5 stars gets a rebuttal. 3 stars? It's got sideways box art, man. Sideways box art. Oh, man. That just makes me so happy. When I look at it, I think of Mo. Also, when I look at this movie, I also think of Mo, because Hamburger, the motion picture, is one of the first movies that I ever covered on Mo's old Drunk on VHS podcast. And so Hamburger, the motion picture, again, I think still only available on VHS. This one is Loose Cannons. It's a totally bizarre film that really shouldn't exist. But it's Gene Hackman, Dan Aykroyd. Everybody hates this film. I absolutely love it. There isn't anything I don't love about this film. I love everything about it. A lot of people hate it. I think it's fantastic. Loose Cannons. Candy Mountain. So this was a movie that my best friend, who I've known since I was 6 years old, John Wallace, first introduced me to years and years ago, when we used to watch movies together in our early teens. And it was probably on TV, I think it was, late one night, and John or his brother saw that it was a movie with Tom Waits, David Johansen, Leon Redburn, Joe Strummer, and Dr. John in it. And probably went, oh, okay, I've got to watch that, record it, and I've got to watch that. So this movie, which again is pretty rare, although I think it's been on YouTube now. But this movie, which is pretty rare, considering who it stars, and it's not a Jarmusch movie, but it's got like a Jarmusch feel to it. It's very moosh. It's a little bit jar, but it's very moosh. That's... and it's got a bunch of musicians in it. You think it would be more well-known. But it's a very sweet, charming little road movie, and great cameos in it, and Candy Mountain. And it's one of my favorites. It gives me memories of watching movies with my friends, John and Jim, who are still my friends, and we still watch movies together, which is great. Sundown, A Vampire in Retreat. And the reason why that is currently up on the wall is because this was the first VHS. When I got to university, I met another like-minded movie collector, Adam Parks, who knew way more about everything than I did at the time. And I keep I keep meeting these people throughout my life who I get to a certain point in my film knowledge, and then I'll meet Adam. So for example, at the time I was a big Bruce Campbell fan, and I thought that I had all of the like Bruce Campbell movies and I knew everything about Bruce Campbell. And I showed up at university and I'm talking to him about Bruce Campbell, and he goes, "Oh, have you seen Sundown, Vampire in Retreat?" Gets it down from the shelf, and I'm like, "No, what the hell is that? I didn't even know what that was." And I got so excited because Bruce Campbell was like one of the first things I collected. We watched it and it was awesome. And it then took me off down a path of collecting and being able to find like very weird and random or American imported VHS and stuff like that. So I started collecting weird Bruce Campbell movies like Mind Warp and Moontrap long before they'd had Blu-ray releases and stuff. And it was just such a fun time. So this is up on the shelf to remind me of the passion of being a new collector. Next up, it's 2 Dondola movies, Stakes and Night Beast. They're up on the wall because I'm a big fan of Dondola, and because you don't often come across his VHS tapes, and because they remind me of my friendship with my friend Nick Contal. And then next up we have The Burbs, which is purely my second year at university living with my friends Ben, Matt, and Craig. The Burbs, that cemented a friendship for life. I consider The Burbs to be a completely perfect film. The other one that's on the wall is Malone, because it just has the funniest VHS cover of all time. They've even snuck the Orion logo into the crook of Burt Reynolds' knee. What can we put on the front of this movie? Well, how about we put Burt Reynolds' wig firing a shotgun with the Orion logo in the crook of his knee and a wall of fire? Who wouldn't want to watch Malone? Come on now. And it's just it. It doesn't even say Reynolds on it or anything. It just says Malone. You're just meant to be like, well, it's Burt Reynolds with a shotgun. Why wouldn't I watch the fuck out of that? Malone. So I have Malone up on the wall. It also makes me think of my friend Mo. Then I've got to have a little bit of Canada Love up on my wall just because I just grew up watching a lot of mad Canadian stuff and listening to a lot of great Canadian music. And so I had to have some of that up on my wall. So I have the Tragically Hip on tour Hexen Kettle VHS, which I think has now been finally released on DVD with a few albums. I'm going to forget which one. I think it's Fully Completely. If you get that, you get this on DVD with it as well. But for a longest time, you could only find this on VHS. And finding it in the UK was even harder. Of course, the other one has to be the immortal Brain Candy. I don't care what other people say. I don't care what the kids in the hall say. This is one of the top 10 comedies of all time. Brain Candy is just... It's sort of the shock treatment of its time, and I'll tell you what I mean. Shock treatment was about 10 to 15 years too early for people to really get the satire and the joke. So watching Shock Treatment now, with the proliferation of reality television and everything all kind of becoming intertwined, then something like Shock Treatment has so much more relevance. Similarly, with the explosion of wildly stupid and dangerous prescription drugs, this movie again probably just came out 10 or 15 years too early. But it's a phenomenal comedy. But Brain Candy, please, 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 give it I know it got a Blu-ray release. Give it a proper Blu-ray release with extras. Just kids in the hall, come on now. Get together, embrace this film, love this film, do commentaries for it, do behind-the-scenes stuff. Come on now. I get it. It was a horrible fucking time. But it's a great movie. Please do a new release for it. Grease 2. There's no way I could not have Grease 2 up on the wall. It's simply one of my favorite films. And every time I watch it, it gets better. Like there's sections of Grease 2 that look like a Monty Hellman movie. It's all like grainy and wonderfully beautiful, thick cinematography and epic music and stuff. I mean, it's just... I love Grease 2. I love Grease 2. Grease 2 is so good. Maxwell Caulfield and Michelle Pfeiffer are the beans. It's a feminist forward movie. Maxwell Caulfield, trying to be English and sexy. It's a hard combination to pull off. You can be English or you can be sexy. That's the case. Anyway, talking about you're either English or you're sexy, it's Michael Caine, Roger Moore in Michael Winner's Bullseye. which, in all honesty, is a terrible, terrible film. But I have to explain. Back in the day, when we all used to watch movies and go down to our local video shop called Star Video, where we would rent stuff like The Burbs or Bullseye, because we were like, oh, look, Michael Caine and Roger Moore, way past their prime. In a Michael Winner film, well, what can go wrong? However, for years and years and years and years and years, much like the movie Wacko, starring Joe Don Baker, I had this memory of Bullseye. I knew I'd seen it, and I knew that I kind of enjoyed it because Michael Caine and Roger Moore play two lots of twins, right? So there's like four of them. It's mad. It's totally mad. Anyway, and I remember when I like excitedly got this and put it in to watch it. And I was like, oh boy, this is atrocious. This is really bad. Yet it is a movie that has earned its place on the wall. And it's a movie that if you ever come across it, or if you want to look it up, you should watch it. I think everyone should watch it. Just to realize that Sir Michael Caine and Sir James of the Bondness Roger Moore in this, and Michael Winner, who made the Death Wish, the first 3 Death Wishes, that they could put their noggins together and make something this bad. That needs... By the way, watching that, knowing all of that, Michael Caine, Roger Moore, Michael Winner, knowing that they can make a stinker is more important than knowing that Citizen Kane is a good movie. There's more lessons to be learned in Bullseye than Citizen Kane. And I'm not joking. There are more lessons to learn about foolishness and greed and avarice and madness and ego. There's so much more to learn about the human condition in Bullseye than Citizen Kane. It's true, though. You debate me, but it's true. Last on the wall, there was a time in my life where I weirdly had to own every single thing that the Monty Python team had ever done. Ever. Pre-Python, post-Python, books about them, whatever. I was like the 12-year-old kid going into the bookstore in the UK and being like, this actually happened. Do you have a copy of Eric Idle's play manuscript for his very little scene past the butler play? This was like a decade after the book had come out. And there's this 12-year-old kid being like, can I please try and get hold of the most obscure book in Eric Idle's long and storied career? Or I would go into one of the video shops where we grew up in England and find Romance and a Double Bass, which was a fucking Chekhov film that John Cleese and Connie Booth made that no one's ever heard of, ever. And they had it, and I forced... They had it to rent, but I forced the cashier to let me buy it. She was like, what is it? It's John Cleese doing a Chekhov short film. Oh, yeah, and it's super rare, and I want it, so sell it to me. Anyway, that actually happened. These things actually happened. I was a weird kid, But to symbolize all of that weirdness, it's Missing Pieces with Eric Idle and Robert Wuhl. And Eric Idle has like disowned this movie and shit on this movie. Every time it's ever come up, he's just shit all over this movie. And again, just like you can learn you're Sir Michael Caine and Roger Moore, you can do a stinker, you also need to learn that Eric Idle doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, because this is a fucking hilarious, fun, enjoyable, mad, stupid romp of a movie. And you should be bloody happy you're in it. Also, Eric Idle, name another good film, apart from the Python films, name another good film you're actually in. You know what I mean? What? You're gonna be like, well, you know, this is crap, but Mum and Dad Saved the World, that was a work of artistic genius. or a Robert Downey Sr. film he was in, like Under the Sun or whatever. Or fucking Splitting Hairs. Come on, Idol. This is the best movie outside of Monty Python you were ever in. So everyone should track it down. And that's it. That's been a lot of my VHS tapes, a lot of me rambling, a lot of me laughing. I hope you've enjoyed this. But this has been my rare and / favorite and funny tapes. And I hope you've all enjoyed it. And if you've enjoyed it, I'll do more.